All right. So grabbing from the resources the O4 bike site ex4 files.zip. What do we start every site with? The what? The starter HTML. Right. Where do we get that? We got that in our starter HTML folder, and we've got, we're going to use both the HTML5 templates. That's our starter kit, right? We start every exercise, every website with this. So we're going to snag that. I'm going to put that on my desktop as well. And we're also going to use toggle menu. I think we'll get to it today. So grab both of those because we're going to do a drop-down menu as well. All right, so for this site, the structure is going to be very similar to the cat site, so it'll be a good review again. But it's going to have a little bit extra stuff that we can do responsiveness with. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. But we're going to do a drop-down very similar to how we did the cat site. But we're also going to convert that drop-down menu from a drop-down hamburger-style menu on the phone to a horizontal, always-out desktop-style menu in one fell swoop. It's going to be awesome with some new stuff that you haven't seen before. All right, so I got all my files here. I need toggle menu. I got my ex4 files and my RWD template, HTML5 template RWD. Everybody got those files and ready to roll? Yes. All right, let's take a look. I'm going to open up my ex4 files.zip. And so I can take a look at that one. I don't need the zip file anymore. So I've got an images folder that has all of my images already exported out for web, but it's also in my Illustrator file. So I'm going to double click on my Illustrator file, open that up. I've saved it down to CS6, so let me know if that's a problem. If you get a message there in the Illustrator file that it's missing the pictures, just click the little box that says do this for everything and then go find in the images folder the one that it's asking for and it'll fix all of them. But so can't find the link files, so apply to all, replace, and then in the ex4 folder, where is it? Oh, desktop, ex4 files, images. It's looking for Bikes Hero. I just click on Bikes Hero, hit replace, and it will fix everybody. All right. So we've got just a simple site here with our logo, a hamburger menu. You can see I've got a nav layer as well. I can turn these guys off here. I've got a nav layer. Boy, it's having trouble with that logo, isn't it? And it's got an extra page. It's got a bikes page as well. So it's a two-page website, right? And it's got the bikes page is not all that crazy, but the home page has a couple of things. So when we get done with this thing, oh, I got a little bit off there. Sorry. When we get done with this thing, zoom tight. My images are off kilter for some reason. We'll fix that in a little bit. When we get to the final site, these two divs right here, this one and this one, are going to go side by side they're going to go vertical on phone and they're going to go side by side for desktop. And also, when we get done with this thing, this drop-down menu is going to go from a drop-down menu to a horizontal top bar menu for desktop when we get done. Cool. So let's kind of get going on this thing and we'll get started with it. Let's get started building. Also, the other thing that's kind of crazy about this is we've got another div that lays on top of this image here as an overlay, as a layer. As opposed to just like being right underneath it. So that's going to be a different kind of positioning, right? So go to the track site. and snag in the exercise folder EX4 is what we're working on. All right, so we got EX4 files. I'm going to open up my HTML5 templates here and get going on that. We'll open the toggle menu later. I'm going to rename my site, so bikes site. I'm going to rename that folder. Remember, so this is your actual site, right? So everything in here is your site. And I'm going to open that one up, and I've got my normal starter. So I've got my images folder, which we're going to replace with the other images folder here in a minute. Just going to move those over. I've got my blank index kind of starter, and we've got my style sheet, and I got a JS folder for any kind of JavaScripts that I got going on. So do we remember about all that stuff? That's kind of exactly how we've been doing the exercises, right? Right, all right. So in EX4 files, I'm just going to drag these images. I'm going to copy these over into my bike site folder and replace. So now in my bike site, I'm going to do that. In my bike site, I've got my images folder all have the images in there. So now I can close that, and I'm just working in my site with my HTML, my index, and my style sheet, and all of my images in there. I'll give everybody a minute to get that stuff. You find it? You'll notice that you'll have a couple of different styles of image. So some of you guys get confused about the different types of images. So notice I got JPEGs, PNGs, and SVG files. Anybody know what an SVG file is? It's a vector file, scalable vector graphic. It's kind of like an EPS in Illustrator. It's generic. So like a web page, you can put it's kind of like having an EPS file on your web page. So what's nice to do is you do that with logos, and you'll get really, really crisp logos no matter what size, and that's nice. PNGs, why do I have PNGs in there? Transparency, right. Why do I have JPEGs? Photographs, thousands of millions of colors. Any transparency in a JPEG? No. Can I use a PNG instead of a JPEG? If it's just a straight photo with no transparency. If I want to, yes. What's the disadvantage of using a PNG that's a photo? I'm sorry? Bigger, yeah, bigger file. JPEGs are almost always a lot smaller and quicker to download on your website.
I learned that when I was uploading to Edition.
Yeah, so your PNGs are huge. Right. Like the same size PNG and the same size JPEG, you put them side by side, it's going to be like half, or even more, right? So the only reason you use a PNG is when? Dude, all right, you guys got it. All right.
What about using like SVGs for like vector stuff?
SVGs for vector, yeah. So icons are great, logos are great for that. SVG supports transparency too, so it's great. I'm sorry?
What's the difference between
SVG and EPS?
Yes.
The concept is the same. It's just EPS is for print, SVG is for web. Yeah, like your browser, you couldn't put an EPS in your browser; it wouldn't know it, wouldn't understand it. But the same concept. It's vector and it's kind of generic. It's not specific to Illustrator, for instance. All right, let's do this. So I'm going to open up my index and my style in brackets, and let's get opened up. These are extras and videos. For bike site. Grab that. And then you got to grab the HTML5 templates as well. Back to resources. Starter. Grab both of those because we're going to need them eventually. I'll let you get the pot. Okay. How are we doing on text size? Do I need to get bigger on that, or is that about right? Can y'all see that? Yeah, Grayson, I can see that, no problem. Okay. Are y'all afraid? Is that why y'all aren't talking? I'm so scared. It's like a horror movie. I'm so scared. Got it? So, take that. All right. So we got to start our site, and I'm going to open up my index in Chrome, and we don't got anything. It's all blank, right? All right. So let's start making this thing. Oops, brackets. There you are. All right. So what do I got to do with the title? I got to put a title in there, right? So yeah, Triumph Motorcycles, and I usually put like a spacer or something like that, or double colon or whatever, home, because that's what shows up here on our tab, right? If we don't do that, then our tabs doesn't have anything. So now, when I hit refresh, I got that. You jump on the machine? You got it? Yeah. Okay. All right. Can you help her get her files? Okay. All right, so let's kind of remind us about what each section is, right? So we got our HTML, right? And we got our head section. What stuff goes in our head section? No. Typefaces go in your CSS.
Well, I'm saying like your,
That's your meta stuff.
like if you use the typeface from like typekit, you would have to put the code in.
Yes, it's preferably to go to the CSS though, so it fixes all 50 of your pages, not just one at a time. All right, it is your meta stuff. So you got a link to your style sheet, right? The person doesn't really see this stuff. They see the title and the rest of it they don't really see, right? So it's your style sheet, the link to your style sheet file, link to those JS files that we talked about in the previous examples, you know, kind of like, you know, fixing old browsers, things like that. And this fix for responsive websites, so it makes our site not just scale down from a desktop to phone. It actually makes it go with what our measurements are, right? We kind of talked about that a little bit. And the body section. What's the body section? That's where all the content lives. Yeah, that's what people see, right? All right. So, What did we do? How did we start a website on every one of our exercises? Y'all remember? A wrapper. Yeah. What's the cause? What's the reason for the wrapper?
So it's all container.
It's the container of my whole site.
Everything.
Yeah. It's the moving truck, right? You put all your boxes in the moving truck. The moving truck goes to the new city, right? This is the moving truck. Everybody goes inside the wrapper, except in very rare occasions. All right. So how do I do a wrapper? Nope.
Maybe a div with the class of wrapper.
Div with a class of wrapper. Yeah, it's just a generic box. Class equals wrapper. All right, and everybody goes inside of my wrapper. Watch what I'm doing with my tabs. That's real important. All right, so let's style our wrapper. Let's make our wrapper. So remember in our style sheet, we're moving over to my style sheet. I've got all this crap up top here. That's kind of fixing old browsers, things like that, so you don't really need to touch it. We got this thing that makes all our images go 100% of whatever box they live in, right? And they will not grow beyond that. So if you've got a small image and you want it to fill a bigger box, you got to save the image out bigger, right? If you like, it starts and you're like, hey, it looks great, and it starts growing and growing and growing, and finally your box keeps on going, but your image stops, that means you didn't save your image out big enough. All right, and then our HTML, starting our line height and our font size is kind of our base there. Don't have to worry about that. But I need to make my wrapper. So what do? How do I talk to a class? Dot, and then the name, right? Wrapper. What's my position? Why? What's static? What does position static mean?
It's not going anywhere.
I'm sorry?
It's not going anywhere.
Does it scroll with the rest of the site?
Yes, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's not.
I'm sorry?
It's stuck on the page when you scroll. It doesn't move with you.
No, that's fixed. Static means what? Huh? It's not going to bump into stuff? No, that's absolute. No, that's fixed. It's going to work with everything around it. Yes, it will work with everything around it. But more specifically, this is a static div, right? Let's say I put another static div. Where does that static div going to show up?
Right underneath.
Right underneath it. Where's the next one going to show up? Right underneath that. Right? It's just going to go one right after each other. They have bones. They push each other out of the way, right? Okay. What is, okay, so that's static. What absolute divs do? Position absolute.
They don't go anywhere.
They stay in the same place. They don't go anywhere?
Yeah.
Wrong.
They're like on top of stuff?
I'm sorry?
On top of stuff?
On top of stuff. You can layer them. I can layer them on top of each other.
Right.
Do they scroll with the rest of the site?
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Yes. All right. What about fixed? Okay, it stays. It doesn't scroll off the page. So whenever you see a header there and you got some content and you want it to kind of like go underneath and you kind of want the content to do this but the header to stay stuck, that's a fixed header. It's a fixed div. Right? Can you layer like an absolute? Smile, nod. Right? Okay. Static. Do they push each other out of the way? Do they have bones? Yes. Do they scroll with the rest of the site? Yes. Is that what you use almost most of the time? Yes. For the most part. Unless you have a real reason not to. Absolutes. Do they scroll with the rest of the site? Do they have bones? Do they push each other out of the way? No, they're like a ghost. Do they layer? Yes. Fixed. Do they layer? Do they have bones? Do they push each other out of the way? No. Do they scroll with the rest of the site? No. There you go. All right. So we're going to do a static position on our wrapper because we want it to scroll. And if we have something on top or below our wrapper, we want it to push it out of the way. Right? All right. Position static. We are going to give this a width. So let's say if this is a phone, we want our, let's go back to our Illustrator file. Do I have anything going edge to edge on my site? Gesundheit. Gesundheit. Yes, I do. I got this hero going edge to edge on my site. So what do you think my width is? 100%. All right. Do I want this thing to go 100% at all times out into space? Like if I get on a big gigantic TV, or do I want it to stop it eventually at a certain size and just center? Let's stop it. How do I stop it growing? If I got 100% wide and I don't put anything, it's just going to go on forever out into space. Max width. There you go. And we're going to do 1200 pixels. Hopefully that's what I saved that image out as. Yay, it didn't give me any image. We're going to assume it does. Yeah, we're going to assume that does. Yeah, I saved it out 1200. All right. All right, so 1200 pixels, max width. So we stopped it from growing. Now we want to center the whole site. How do I center the site? There's a lot of discussion.
Align.
No. Position center, no. Align, no. Margin, yeah, you got it. Yeah. Margin zero auto. There you go. What's the longhand version of that? Margin left auto, margin right auto. The shorthand is margin zero space auto. However you like. If you want me to do the left auto, margin right auto. So that's the longhand. The shorthand is margin zero auto, and that means top and bottom zero, left and right auto. So however you like to do it, it's okay if you do it the longhand way. All right, and just so to kind of, you don't have to do this, I'm just going to show you guys what it looks like. So there's my wrapper. It goes, and then it hits 1200 and stops, and then centers, right? If I don't have that max width on there, it would have just kept on going forever, right? So that's what my max width does, is stop it from growing, and my margin zero auto centers the whole site. All right. So I'm going to zap the height in the red. Do we normally want heights in divs? No. Why? It might cut off the content. Why?
Might have too much. Couldn't fit.
Fair. But what's happening to our content as it goes from a small phone to a wider tablet to a...
Doesn't reduce the size when you change.
Right. So our type is rewrapping, our images are resizing, and so the heights are like way super flexible, right? So if we put if we like said we want to nail this thing down to like 500 pixels tall, and on a phone the type's going to bust out of it. On a desktop, the div's going to be too big, and it's going to have like little type in big div, right? Little type, big div. All right. Me, Robert, big tree. All right. So we got our wrapper. Was that a few? Oh, okay. It's like, whew, time for a coffee break. That was tough. Whew. I don't know about you guys, but whew. All right, let's do this header. What do you think? We got a hamburger menu and a logo in that puppy. Let's do our header and let's check this puppy out. So I'm going to build our header. So inside my wrapper, I'm going to make a header. And it's really the only it's really the only header I'm going to have. I don't need to put a class on it, things like that. If I had like multiple headers, I might need to put a class on it. But I can just use the tag, right? All right. So in there, I need a div for my hamburger menu, and I need a div for my logo, right? I could put the two images in there loose, but I got to kind of float them sideways, and I got to size them, and I got to do some special stuff. I got to kind of arrange them pretty heavily, so I don't want to. I want to put them in divs rather than just putting it in loose. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to. So that hamburger menu is that just a generic div or is that something special? Hmm.
Well, you're probably not going to style anything else the way you style the hamburger menu because it's just by itself, so you can give it a class, right?
I would, but guess what I'm asking is it a div? Is it an article? Is it a header? Is it a nav, maybe? It's part of my nav, right? So I'd probably call it a nav. I am going to give it a class of burger, just for good measure, because I am actually going to have another nav with that drop down. And I need to put an image in there, right? I need to put that little hamburger menu in there, right? So how do I put an image in there? OMG space src equals, and then the folder it lives in and the name of the file, right? And that is burger.ping. Just so happens. What else do I need to put in an image? That's not the end of my image tag, is it? Alt tag, yeah. Why do I need the alt tag? Blind people and Google. Yeah. And it's just English. It's just like two people walking on a beach, you know, that sort of thing, right? All right. I'm not done. How do I end my image? How do I close it? Space / bracket. Because the images don't go around anything. They don't stop and start. They just are. So they have to kind of close within themselves, right? So we're just doing that. Right. We haven't sized it. We haven't styled it or anything. We'll do that in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and throw my logo in there while I'm at it, and then we'll style them. What do you think? Let's do it. So, is my logo anything special? There's not really a logo div or a specialization for a logo, so I'm just going to kind of use a generic div for this one. Div class O logo. And I'm going to put my image and my logo in there, right? So really very similar to the hamburger menu. Logo.svg. I don't want logo white. That's for the other part there, so just regular logo. Alt tag. And then I close my image. That thusly, right? I want to say thusly. Makes me feel British. Yeah. So in my header, I'm going to have this bar, basically. And I got my burger and my logo divs in there filled with the images, right? So let's save it and let's just take a look. It's going to look pretty butt ugly, but at least we're going to have our images in there. It's going to look like that. We haven't styled them. We haven't told them go side by side. the logo, the SVG has gone huge, right? SVGs, one of the interesting things about SVGs is like they have no boundaries. So if you don't like tell it what to be, it'll just go like forever, like a so. But you can tell it's nice and crisp as a logo, unlike a ping, which might get a little bit crazy or pixely. All right. So what do we need to do? We got to style all this stuff, right? We put in a header that we haven't styled. We put a nav and a burger and a logo that we haven't styled any of this stuff. So that's our next step, right? Right.
Did you wear the triumph shirt today on purpose?
I didn't. I didn't. I usually wear, like when I'm coding, I usually wear my HTML shirt. So, but you're right. It's I didn't think about it. All right. So header. That's the only header we have. We didn't give it a class. How do I talk to it? Just header. I'm just talking to the div. Or the tag. I'm sorry. So header. All right. So our header kind of goes the full width, right? So we can just call it 100% wide. Oh, sorry. What's our position first? My bad. Position static. Because we want the image of the bike underneath this header, right? We want the header to push the bike down. So we want it to push it down, right? So position static. So what's our width on this thing? 100%. Yeah. It's not going anywhere. We just want it to go full width. And since it's inside my wrapper, is it going to stop when my wrapper stops growing? Totally. Right. So I don't need to put a max width on there or anything like that because I've already got that on my wrapper. Cool. All right. And it's kind of really all we have to look at. Let's put a background color on there so I can kind of see what I'm looking at. I always like to put background colors on things when I'm building. It keeps me from like, hey, what happened to that div? Why is it, not acting like I want to? And I could put the background color in there and go, oh, because it's way too small. Why is that? So I like putting background colors in there just temporarily. All right, so header. So let's take a look at it. We're not going to see anything. Or actually, I take that back. We are going to see something. So these two are inside my header. It also helps me to make sure that in my HTML that I haven't like closed my header before I close my logo or something like that. If both of these puppies are in the green box, then I know I'm in good shape, right? All right. So now what do I got to do? I got to size these guys because I know they're not the right size. I got to put in there like right up to the edge of things. I need to like figure out what size and margins I got going on. So let's do that. I'm going to go to my Illustrator file. And how do I figure that out? What's the best way to figure that out, or the easiest way? Select it and see what size it is. So let's take the hamburger first. So hello. Oh, thank you. All right. So it's 37 wide, right? Do I care about the height? No, I just need the width. So my width is 37. 37. What's my calculation on this? No. What do I divide by? Well, what's the size of my my actual document, my artboard? 640. So you divide by the size of the document that you're working in, right? So 37 divided by 640 times 100, and that gives me my 5.78125% width. And you do want to go all the way out on your calculator to the decimal point if you want things to fit nicely. So I need to style my hamburger, right? So that's not my header. That's my burger. So I've got class of burger. How do I talk to class of burger? Dot burger. Anybody know why it's called a hamburger? Yeah, it's the bun and the meat. Yeah, there you go. I've actually seen some people that like, if you click and hold on it, it actually turns into a hamburger. It turns into like a picture of a hamburger, kind of like a little Easter egg. All right, what's my position on this div that my logos or my hamburger's in? Right. What's my width? We just calculated that out. 5.78125% wide. I know it sucks. You got to write it all out, but it really does help. All right. We don't want it. So that's looking good, but it's right to the edge of my site. We don't want that. So we got to figure out what my my margin left is. Correct. So what's the easiest way to figure that out? Yeah, I'll just draw a square next to it. Or I know that I actually had a gutter of, if I turn these guys, I have a gutter of 30. So I already know that that's my margin, so 30. So I'm going to do 30 divided by what? 640 in this case, because my file is 640. Multiply by 100 to get my percents. Oops, hold on. 4.6875. So I'm going to put, I need to move it over from the left-hand side, so what am I going to do? Margin left. Percent. All right. Okay, that moved it over a little bit. We will fix the height of the margin top on it a little bit later. We'll kind of move that once we get our logo kind of situated. So is everybody kind of looking like mine, where the hamburger menu is still at the top, but it's over to the left now? Yeah, still in the green box. Great. All right. Let's style that logo. It's a class of logo, so what? Dot logo. Say it loud, say it proud. What's my position? Static. Everybody. Static. Why? Because you want it to push things out of the way, you want it to scroll with the rest of the site, all that jazz, right? All right, what's my width? We got to figure that out. How do we figure that out? My Illustrator file. Click on it. It's let's say 223. 223 divided by what? 640 in this case, times 100. Percent. There you go. Save it. Let's take a look. Much better. Much closer to what we wanted. How do we get these things going side by side? Float them what? Float them left. Because we want them to go both that way.
Yeah.
If we want them to go to opposite sides, we float the burger left and the logo right. Right? So if you want to go opposite sides of the div. If you want to go same side, left. Do I have to float both the burger and the logo? Nope, you got to float both. Float them both. What if your header disappears? Yes. Aha.
Overflow hidden something.
Your favorite DJ, overflow hidden. That's right. Okay, what happens when you float stuff inside of a parent div?
I don't know that.
Somebody said it. Collapses. It folds up like one of those old window shades. You know, you pull down and it goes, right? In the cartoons. Maybe the old school cartoons I watch. All right, so in my header, that's the green div, right? We want to get that, because the other problem is if I put that image in, it's going to go right underneath my logo now, because it's like that div doesn't push anything out of the way. It's folded up entirely. So your favorite DJ, overflow hidden, because he fixes everything. You don't know what he does. He just fixes everything, because I don't even know what overflow hidden means, but it fixes shit. So